Your staff. A practical leadership guide to training, accountability, and culture. Copyright 2026 LM, all rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic or mechanical, including photocopying, recording, or by any information storage and retrieval system, without written permission from the author, except for brief quotations and reviews. About the book. Most leadership problems don't start with bad employees. They start with unclear expectations, inconsistent standards, and avoided conversations. Your staff is a practical guide for business owners, managers, and leaders who want a team that takes responsibility, protects standards, and performs without constant oversight. This book strips away management buzzwords and focuses on what actually drives results: clear leadership, consistent accountability, and intentional culture. Inside, you'll learn why rushing training creates long-term problems, how unclear expectations undermine accountability, and why culture is shaped by what leaders allow, not what they say. You'll see the difference between micromanagement and true accountability, learn how to develop leaders from within your team, and understand why hiring for attitude matters more than experience. This book also addresses communication, coaching, and change. Showing leaders how to prevent problems before they escalate, build ownership instead of dependency, and lead confidently through uncertainty. Your staff is not about demanding more from employees, it's about leading better, so your team can rise to the standard you set. If you're tired of fixing the same issues, repeating the same conversations, and carrying responsibility your team should own, this book provides a clear path forward. Because strong teams are not accidental. They are built through clarity, consistency, and leadership that refuses to allow anything less. Dedication. This book is dedicated to leaders who are willing to have hard conversations, protect standards, and lead with clarity, even when it is uncomfortable. About the author. This book was created based on 20 years' work experience in different work environments. LM is passionate about leadership and loves helping teams grow, nurturing new leaders from within, and building workplaces where everyone knows what's expected and feels supported. Table of Contents. Chapter 1, Lear How to Walk Before You Talk, New Hire, First Month. Chapter 2, Setting Expectations, Clarity Before Accountability. Chapter 3, Accountability versus Micromanagement, Managing Outcomes, Not Actions. Chapter 4, Developing Leaders from Within. Your best leaders are already on your team. Chapter 5, Culture is what you allow. Every company has a culture, by design or by default. Chapter 6, Hiring for Attitude, Training for Skill. You can teach skills, you can't teach character. Chapter 7, Communication that prevents problems. Clarity beats frequency. Chapter 8, Coaching versus Managing. Coaching builds people, managing gets work done. Chapter 9, Leading through Change. Leadership is the difference, change is inevitable. Conclusion. Leadership is a daily choice. The business reflects the leadership. Chapter 1, New Hire. Real-life example: a fabrication company hired a new customer service employee during peak season and placed them at the service desk immediately. Training focused only on phone scripts and scheduling, not on how fabrication, sales, and service connected. Within weeks, customers were promised unrealistic timelines and incorrect solutions. The employee was not careless, they lacked context. When leadership restructured onboarding to include cross-department rotation during the first month, errors dropped, confidence increased, and customer satisfaction stabilized. Learn how to walk before you talk, the first month. The success of your business begins and ends with your people. Yet one of the most common mistakes companies make happens on day one: how they train a new hire. In most organizations, onboarding follows a predictable pattern. A new employee is placed directly into the department they were hired for and trained by a supervisor or a coworker. While this approach feels efficient, it often creates long-term problems. Employees learn how to do tasks, but not why those tasks matter or how their role connects to the bigger picture. This chapter challenges the traditional mindset. The common mistake. Let's consider a typical example. A new hire joins the service department in a customer service role within a countertop fabrication company. Most companies would immediately place this individual at the service counter, teaching them how to answer phones, schedule jobs, and handle customer concerns. While this is necessary, it is not sufficient. Customer service employees are the front line of your business. They are the voice of your company, the problem solvers, and often the deciding factor in whether a customer returns or leaves frustrated. To perform effectively, they must understand far more than their immediate responsibilities. Understanding the business as a whole. A strong customer service professional needs working knowledge of sales, understanding how products are sold, priced, and promised. Product knowledge, knowing materials, finishes, limitations, and options. Company policies, warranties, timelines, returns, and expectations. Procedures, internal workflows and communication channels. Fabrication, how products are made, what can go wrong, and why. Repairs and service, common issues, realistic solutions, and timelines. Without this foundation, customer service becomes reactive rather than proactive. Employees give incomplete answers, set unrealistic expectations, and struggle to solve problems efficiently. The first month training philosophy. The first month of employment should not be about speed, it should be about understanding. Instead of confining training to one department, the first 30 days should be intentionally divided among key areas of the business. This approach allows new hires to learn the ins and outs of how your company truly operates. A well-structured first month might include time spent observing and learning from sales. Hands-on exposure to fabrication. Shadowing repair and service technicians. Reviewing policies, procedures, and standards. Gradual introduction to their primary role. This method teaches employees how decisions in one department affect another. It builds empathy, accountability, and clarity. Walking before talking. When employees understand the process before being expected to perform, they gain confidence. They speak more accurately with customers. They anticipate problems instead of reacting to them. Most importantly, they make better decisions because they understand the consequences. By the end of the first month, a new hire should understand how their role fits into the company as a whole. Know who to go to for answers and why. Communicate clearly and confidently with customers and coworkers. Perform their job more effectively because they understand the full process. Setting the standard early. Training is not an expense, it is an investment. The way you train your staff sets the tone for performance, accountability, and culture. When you teach your employees to walk before they talk, you don't just create better workers, you build stronger teams, better customer experiences, and a more successful business. Chapter 2, Setting Expectations. Real-life example, a service department struggled with missed deadlines and inconsistent communication. Employees believed they were performing well, yet results varied. Leadership realized expectations were never clearly defined. Once standards, response times, and escalation paths were documented and reinforced, accountability became fair and performance improved. Clarity before accountability. Once a new hire understands how your business operates, the next critical step is setting clear expectations. Most performance issues in the workplace do not come from laziness or lack of talent, they come from confusion. When employees are unsure of what is expected of them, accountability becomes impossible. You cannot hold someone responsible for standards that were never clearly defined. The cost of unclear expectations. Many companies assume expectations are common sense. They are not. Employees often hear, "Just do your best. Figure it out. That's how we've always done it." These phrases create inconsistency, frustration, and resentment. One employee's best may look very different from another's. Without clear expectations, supervisors end up correcting behavior instead of preventing problems, and employees feel like they are constantly failing without understanding why. Defining the role. Every position in your company should answer 3 simple questions. What is my responsibility? How do I know I am doing a good job? What does success look like in this role? For example, a customer service employee's expectation might include responding to customer inquiries accurately and professionally, setting realistic timelines based on fabrication and service capabilities, following company policies consistently, communicating issues clearly to the correct department, representing the company's values at all times. When these expectations are clearly communicated, employees no longer guess, they execute. Standards create freedom. Contrary to popular belief, structure does not limit employees, it empowers them. Clear standards give employees confidence. They know where boundaries are, when to make decisions on their own, and when to escalate issues. This reduces micromanagement and increases trust between staff and leadership. Employees who understand expectations make fewer mistakes, take more ownership, feel more secure in their role, perform more consistently. Accountability starts with leadership. Accountability is not punishment, it is alignment. Leaders must hold themselves to the same standards they expect from their staff. When leadership is inconsistent, employees quickly notice. Rules that apply, sometimes, or only to certain people destroy morale and credibility. Effective accountability means addressing issues early, being specific, not emotional, focusing on behavior, not personality, offering solutions and support, not blame. When expectations are clear, accountability feels fair, not personal. Reinforcement, not assumption. Setting expectations is not a one-time conversation. It is an ongoing process. Regular check-ins, feedback, and reinforcement ensure that expectations stay top of mind. Employees should never be surprised by a performance review. If something matters, it should be discussed long before it becomes a problem. Strong leaders don't wait for failure, they coach for success. Building a culture of responsibility. When expectations are clear and consistently reinforced, a culture of responsibility develops naturally. Employees begin to hold themselves, and each other, accountable. Pride in work increases. Problems are addressed instead of ignored. This is where average teams become great teams. The foundation for growth. Training teaches employees how your business works. Expectations teach them how to succeed within it. When you invest the time to clearly define roles, standards, and accountability, you don't just improve performance, you build trust, stability, and a workforce that grows with your company instead of against it. Chapter 3: Accountability without micromanagement. Real-life example: a supervisor required constant updates and approvals, unintentionally teaching employees to wait instead of think. When leadership shifted to outcome-based accountability with defined checkpoints, ownership increased and micromanagement disappeared. Trust is the goal, control is the trap. Accountability and micromanagement are often confused, but they are not the same thing. In fact, micromanagement is usually a symptom of poor accountability systems, not strong leadership. Great leaders do not hover. They do not watch every move or second-guess every decision. Instead, they create clear expectations, provide the right tools, and trust their people to execute. Accountability, when done correctly, builds ownership. Micromanagement destroys it. Why micromanagement happens? Micromanagement rarely comes from bad intentions. Most leaders micromanage because they fear mistakes. They don't trust the process. They were never taught how to lead, only how to do the job. Expectations were never clearly defined. When leaders feel responsible for everything, they try to control everything. Unfortunately, this approach creates dependent employees who wait to be told what to do instead of thinking for themselves. The difference between accountability and micromanagement. Micromanagement says, I don't trust you to do this without me watching. Accountability says, I trust you to do this, and I will support and evaluate the outcome. Accountability focuses on results, not constant supervision. It asks, was the task completed correctly? Were company standards followed? Was the customer experience protected? Were problems communicated early? Micromanagement focuses on behavior, timing, and methods, even when results are good. Ownership is created through autonomy. Employees take ownership when they feel trusted. When staff members are allowed to make decisions within clear boundaries, they become more engaged. They think critically, anticipate problems, and take pride in their work. Autonomy does not mean chaos, it means freedom within structure. To create this balance, define what decisions employees can make on their own. Clarify when leadership must be involved. Support employees when decisions don't work out. Treat mistakes as learning opportunities, not punishments. Systems over surveillance. Strong businesses rely on systems, not constant supervision. Clear procedures, documented standards, and regular check-ins remove the need to hover. When employees know what "done right" looks like, they don't need someone standing over their shoulder. Effective systems include standard operating procedures, clear escalation paths, regular performance reviews, consistent feedback loops. These tools allow leaders to step back while still maintaining control of quality and performance. Coaching, not policing. Accountability should feel like coaching, not discipline. When an issue arises, the conversation should focus on what happened, why it happened, how to prevent it next time. This approach builds skills instead of fear. Employees who feel coached improve. Employees who feel policed shut down. Great leaders correct behavior without attacking character. They address issues early, clearly, and respectfully. Letting go without losing control. Letting go is uncomfortable, especially for leaders who built the business or worked their way up by doing everything themselves. But growth requires delegation. You cannot scale a business if every decision depends on you. True accountability allows leaders to focus on strategy instead of daily tasks. Develop future leaders. Reduce burnout. Build a self-sustaining team. Letting go does not mean lowering standards. It means trusting your systems and your people. When accountability is done right. When accountability replaces micromanagement. Employees feel respected. Performance improves. Communication becomes proactive. Leadership gains time and clarity. Culture strengthens. Employees stop working for the boss and start working for the company's success. The leader's role. Your job as a leader is not to do the work, it is to ensure the work gets done correctly, consistently, and sustainably. Accountability without micromanagement is the bridge between control and trust. It transforms employees into professionals and teams into partners. When people know what's expected, are trusted to deliver, and are supported when they struggle, they don't need to be watched, they rise to the standard. Example 1, Delegation. Micromanagement. Assigns tasks but dictates every step. Requires constant updates. Changes direction mid-task. Takes credit for success. Accountability. Delegates outcomes, not methods. Sets clear boundaries and success criteria. Lets the employee own the process. Recognizes responsibility and results. Key difference. Micromanagement delegates tasks, accountability delegates ownership. Example 2, training a new employee. Micromanagement. Supervisor stands next to the employee all day. Redoes the work instead of explaining corrections. Doesn't allow independent decision-making. Steps in at the first sign of uncertainty. Accountability. Supervisor provides clear training and expectations. Allows the employee to try and make decisions. Reviews work at checkpoints. Corrects mistakes with explanation and guidance. Key difference: micromanagement creates dependency, accountability builds confidence and skill. One-sentence rule for leaders. If you're managing actions, you're micromanaging. That if you're managing outcomes, you're holding people accountable. Chapter 4: Developing Leaders from Within. Real-life example: a high-performing employee was promoted without leadership preparation. Conflict followed. After implementing leadership development before promotion, future leaders earned trust and stability returned. Your best leaders are already on your team. Many companies believe leadership must be hired from the outside. When problems arise or growth accelerates, the instinct is to look for someone with a title, experience elsewhere, or an impressive resume. While external hires have their place, the strongest and most loyal leaders are often already inside your organization. They understand your culture, they know your customers, that they've lived your systems, your challenges, and your standards. Developing leaders from within is not just a staffing strategy, it is a cultural decision. Why internal leadership matters. When employees see a clear path to growth, engagement increases. People work harder when they believe effort leads somewhere. Internal leadership development sends a powerful message. If you commit to this company will commit to you. Organizations that promote from within benefit from higher employee retention, faster onboarding into leadership roles, stronger cultural consistency, increased trust and morale, reduced hiring risk. Leadership is not about titles, it's about influence, responsibility, and example. Spotting leadership potential early. Not every top performer should be a leader, but every strong leader shows certain behaviors long before they are promoted. Look for employees who take ownership without being asked, solve problems instead of escalating everything, help coworkers succeed, accept feedback without defensiveness, think beyond their job description, care about the company's success, not just their paycheck. Leadership potential reveals itself through actions, not ambition alone. From performer to leader. One of the biggest mistakes companies make is promoting someone without preparing them. Being good at a job does not automatically make someone good at leading others. The transition from individual contributor to leader requires new skills. Communication, coaching, decision-making, conflict management, accountability, emotional intelligence. Developing leaders from within means teaching leadership, not just assigning authority. Training leaders before the title. Leadership development should begin before promotion, not after. Give emerging leaders opportunities to train new employees. Lead small projects. Make decisions with guidance. Participate in problem-solving discussions. Understand business metrics and goals. These experiences build confidence and competence while allowing leadership to evaluate readiness without risk. Allowing safe failure. Future leaders must be allowed to make mistakes, safely. If every mistake is punished, employees will avoid responsibility. If mistakes are treated as learning opportunities, growth accelerates. The goal is not perfection, the goal is development. Strong leaders are shaped by responsibility, feedback, reflection, correction. Support your future leaders through failure instead of protecting them from it. Promoting the right people for the right reasons. Promotions should never be based solely on tenure or convenience. Promote people who uphold company values. Led by example. Earn respect, not demand it. Take accountability seriously. Put the team before ego. When the wrong person is promoted, everyone feels it. When the right person is promoted, the team rallies. Leadership is a multiplier. One strong leader can elevate an entire team. One poorly developed leader can undo years of progress. Internal leaders. Protect company culture. Reinforce standards daily. Bridge the gap between staff and ownership. Multiply the impact of leadership decisions. Developing leaders from within ensures that leadership is not disconnected from reality, it is grounded in experience. Succession is not optional. Every company should ask: who can step up if a leader leaves? Who is being prepared right now? What knowledge is being passed down? Succession planning is not about replacing people, it's about protecting the business. When leadership development is intentional, transitions are smooth, not chaotic. Building a leadership pipeline. Leadership should not be accidental. Create a system that identifies potential early, develops skills consistently, provides mentorship, rewards growth and responsibility, aligns leadership behavior with company values. When leadership becomes a pipeline instead of a scramble, stability follows. The long-term advantage. Companies that grow leaders internally build more than management, they build loyalty, pride, and longevity. Employees stop asking, "What's my job?" They start asking, "How can I help this company succeed?" That shift is the difference between a workforce and a leadership-driven organization. Chapter 5: Culture is what you allow. Real-life example. Leadership tolerated a high performer who ignored procedures. Other employees followed suit. Standards eroded until leadership addressed the behavior, proving that what leaders allow becomes culture. Every company has a culture, by design or by default. Culture is not a poster on the wall. It's not a mission statement, a slogan, or a company meeting. Culture is what actually happens every day. It's how people treat each other when no one is watching. It's how problems are handled, or ignored. It's what gets corrected and what gets tolerated. Whether intentional or not, every organization has a culture. The difference between strong companies and struggling ones is simple: strong companies actively shape their culture, while weak companies allow it to form on its own. What you tolerate becomes the standard. Leaders often believe culture is shaped by what they say. In reality, culture is shaped by what they allow. If poor performance goes unaddressed, it becomes acceptable. If disrespect is ignored, it spreads. If shortcuts are tolerated, standards erode. If accountability is selective, trust disappears. Silence is not neutrality, it is permission. Employees pay close attention to what leadership corrects and what leadership overlooks. Over time, those observations become the real rules of the company. Consistency is the backbone of culture. Culture collapses when standards are applied inconsistently. Nothing damages morale faster than one employee being held accountable while another is excused. Rules enforced only when convenient. Favoritism disguised as flexibility. Consistency builds credibility. When expectations apply to everyone, regardless of position, tenure, or personality, employees feel safe, respected, and motivated. Strong culture does not require perfection, but it demands fairness. Leaders set the tone. Culture flows downhill. If leaders gossip, employees gossip. Cut corners, employees cut corners. Avoid conflict, employees avoid responsibility. Disrespect policies, employees ignore them. Leadership behavior gives employees permission, either to rise or to lower the bar. You don't need to be the loudest leader to shape culture. You need to be the clearest example. Culture shows up in small moments. Culture is revealed in everyday situations. How late arrivals are handled. How mistakes are discussed. How customers are spoken about behind closed doors. How feedback is given. How success is recognized. These small moments compound. Over time, they define whether your workplace feels disciplined or chaotic, supportive or toxic, professional or careless. Address issues early, or live with them later. Most cultural problems don't start big. They start small, and go unaddressed. One missed deadline. One negative attitude. One policy exception. One, just this once. Left unchecked, small issues grow roots. Once behavior becomes normalized, correcting it feels harder. But that difficulty is the result of delay, not impossibility. Strong leaders address issues early, calmly, and consistently. They understand that discomfort now prevents damage later. Culture is built through action, not intent. Many leaders believe they have a good culture because they mean well. Intent does not shape culture, behavior does. Culture is built when expectations are clearly stated. Standards are reinforced daily. Feedback is honest and respectful. Accountability is fair. Wins are recognized and values are lived. Employees don't follow words, they follow patterns. Protecting the culture you want. Once a healthy culture exists, it must be protected. This means not promoting people who undermine values. Not tolerating high performers with poor behavior. Not sacrificing standards for short-term results. Not avoiding hard conversations. Culture is fragile. One unchecked behavior can undo years of progress. Strong leaders guard culture as carefully as finances, safety, and customer relationships, because culture affects all of them. The cost of a weak culture. When culture is ignored, good employees leave. Average behavior becomes acceptable. Accountability feels personal instead of professional. Leadership spends time managing conflict instead of growth. People don't usually leave companies, they leave environments. The power of an intentional culture. When culture is intentional, employees hold themselves accountable. Teams solve problems together. Leadership earns trust. Standards stay high without constant enforcement. In a strong culture, leaders don't have to chase performance, performance becomes expected. The bottom line. Culture is not created by what you hope will happen. It is created by what you allow to continue. If you want a strong team, a respected brand, and a sustainable business, you must be willing to protect standards, even when it's uncomfortable. Because in the end, culture is not what you say, it's what you allow. Examples of strong company culture. 1. Accountability is consistent, not selective. What it looks like. High performers are held to the same standards as everyone else. Policies apply regardless of title, tenure, or personality. Mistakes are addressed quickly and fairly. Why it's strong employees trust leadership because rules don't change depending on who broke them. Fairness builds respect and eliminates resentment. 2. Problems are addressed early. What it looks like. Leaders don't wait and see when behavior slips. Small issues are corrected before they become big ones. Feedback is given calmly and privately. Why it's strong. Early correction prevents toxic behavior from spreading and shows employees that standards matter every day, not just during performance reviews. 3. People take ownership without being asked. What it looks like. Employees speak up when something is wrong. Team members fix issues instead of blaming others. Mistakes are reported early, not hidden. Why it's strong. Ownership only exists in cultures where people feel safe telling the truth. This reduces costly surprises and improves teamwork. 4. Leaders model the behavior they expect. What it looks like. Leaders show up on time and prepared. They follow the same rules as their team. They admit mistakes and take responsibility. Why it's strong. Employees don't follow instructions, they follow examples. When leadership lives the standards, culture enforces itself. 5. Respect is non-negotiable. What it looks like. No yelling, public shaming, or sarcasm. Disagreements are handled professionally. Gossip and negativity are addressed immediately. Why it's strong. Respect creates psychological safety. Employees perform better when they don't have to protect themselves emotionally. 6. Feedback is normal, not feared. What it looks like. Feedback happens regularly, not just when something goes wrong. Employees expect coaching, not punishment. Conversations focus on behavior and improvement. Why it's strong. When feedback is part of daily operations, accountability feels supportive instead of personal. 7. High standards are protected. What it looks like. Shortcuts are not tolerated, even under pressure. Good enough is challenged. Quality matters as much as speed. Why it's strong. Strong cultures don't sacrifice long-term credibility for short-term convenience. Standards stay intact even when things get hard. 8. The right people are promoted. What it looks like. Leadership roles go to those who live the values. Skill and behavior both matter. Toxic high performers are not rewarded. Why it's strong. Promotions signal what the company truly values. When the right people move up, culture strengthens instead of erodes. 9. Employees hold each other accountable. What it looks like. Team members correct issues before management steps in. Peer accountability is respectful and professional. Standards are reinforced from all directions. Why it's strong. When accountability is shared, leadership doesn't have to police behavior, culture does it naturally. 10. Turnover is low for the right reasons. What it looks like. Strong performers stay and grow. Poor fits leave early or improve. People recommend the company to others. Why it's strong. Healthy culture doesn't try to keep everyone. It keeps the right people and allows misalignment to surface quickly. Simple test of strong culture. Ask yourself. Do standards exist even when leadership isn't present? Are problems discussed openly or avoided? Do employees protect the company, or just their job? If the answers are positive, culture is strong. Bottom line. Strong company culture is not loud. It is not motivational speeches or wall art. It is consistent, fair, enforced, protected, modeled daily. And most importantly, it exists because leadership refuses to allow anything less. Chapter 6, Hiring for Attitude, Training for Skill. Real-life example, an experienced hire lacked accountability and resisted feedback. After replacing them with a coachable candidate, team morale and performance improved, reinforcing that attitude outweighs experience. You can teach skills, you can't teach character. One of the most expensive mistakes a company can make happens before an employee ever starts the job, hiring the wrong person. Many organizations hire based on experience alone. Resumes are reviewed, technical skills are tested, and industry knowledge is prioritized. While skill matters, it is rarely the reason employees fail. People don't usually fail because they can't learn the job, they fail because of attitude, behavior, and mindset. Skills can be taught, attitude cannot. Why attitude matters more than experience. A strong attitude shows up long before performance does. Employees with the right attitude. Take responsibility. Accept feedback. Adapt to change. Respect coworkers. Care about quality and results. Employees with the wrong attitude. Blame others. Resist feedback. Create conflict. Cut corners. Undermine culture. No amount of training can fix a poor attitude. In fact, training the wrong person often makes them more dangerous. They become skilled and disruptive. The high cost of hiring the wrong attitude. Hiring someone with the wrong mindset creates ripple effects. Managers spend excessive time correcting behavior. Team morale drops. High performers become frustrated. Culture weakens. Turnover increases. One bad hire can cost far more than just money, it can cost trust, momentum, and stability. What right attitude really means. Hiring for attitude doesn't mean hiring people who are always positive or agreeable. It means hiring people who align with your values and standards. Look for candidates who demonstrate accountability, they own mistakes instead of explaining them away. Coachability, they listen and adjust. Work ethic, they show consistency, not excuses. Respect, they treat people well regardless of position. Team mindset, they value collective success over ego. These traits predict long-term success better than experience alone. Interviewing for attitude. Most interviews focus on what candidates know. Strong hiring focuses on how candidates think. Ask questions that reveal behavior. Tell me about a time you made a mistake at work. What happened? How do you handle feedback you don't agree with? Describe a situation where you had to work with someone difficult. What does accountability mean to you? Listen carefully. Strong candidates take ownership. Weak candidates deflect blame. Red flags to pay attention to. Skills can impress. Attitude reveals itself quietly. Be cautious if a candidate blames previous employers repeatedly. Avoids responsibility in their stories. Speaks negatively about coworkers or managers. Acts entitled to the position. Resists structure or standards. These behaviors don't disappear after hiring, they usually get worse. Training builds confidence and consistency. Once you hire for attitude, training becomes effective. Employees with the right mindset want to learn. Ask questions. Apply feedback. Improve quickly. Uphold standards. Training should be structured, consistent, and intentional. It should reinforce not just how to do the job, but why it's done that way. This is where earlier chapters come together. Clear expectations, accountability, and culture reinforce training and accelerate performance. Skill can be developed, standards cannot be negotiated. When attitude is right, leaders can be patient with skill gaps. When attitude is wrong, no amount of patience fixes the problem. Strong organizations are willing to train longer, coach more, invest in development. But they are not willing to lower standards, tolerate disrespect, accept excuses, compromise culture, hire slow, fire fast, when necessary. Strong cultures are protected by careful hiring and decisive correction. Hiring slow means taking time to assess fit, asking hard questions, trusting instincts backed by evidence, firing fast. When values are violated, means addressing issues early, not hoping attitude will change, protecting the team and culture. Keeping the wrong person hurts everyone. The long-term advantage. When you consistently hire for attitude and train for skill, teams become stronger. Culture becomes self-enforcing. Training investments pay off. Leadership time is freed. Performance stabilizes. Employees stop asking, "Can I get away with this?" They start asking, "Is this the right way to do it?" The bottom line. Skills may get someone hired, attitude determines whether they succeed. If you want a strong, accountable, and sustainable team, stop hiring only for what people know and start hiring for who they are. Because the right attitude doesn't just learn the job, it elevates the entire organization. Chapter 7, Communication that Prevents Problems. Real-life example, leadership delayed communication during a process change, allowing rumors to spread. Early, honest communication later restored trust and alignment. Most problems are communication problems. Very few workplace issues start as major failures. Most begin as small misunderstandings, assumptions, or unspoken expectations. When communication is weak, minor issues grow into major disruptions. When communication is clear, consistent, and intentional, many problems never happen at all. Strong communication doesn't eliminate challenges, it prevents surprises. Clarity beats frequency. Many leaders believe more communication equals better communication. It doesn't. Endless emails, meetings, and messages often create noise instead of clarity. Employees become overwhelmed, confused, or disengaged. The goal is not to communicate more, it's to communicate clearly. Effective communication answers 3 questions every time. What needs to be done? Why does it matter? What does success look like? When these questions are answered up front, confusion disappears. Say it early, say it clearly. Problems are easiest to fix at the beginning. Delaying communication usually comes from good intentions. Leaders don't want to overreact, create conflict, or hurt feelings. Unfortunately, silence often does more damage than honesty. Strong leaders address issues when they are small. Set expectations before mistakes happen. Speak directly but respectfully. Don't rely on hints, tone, or assumptions. Clear communication today prevents difficult conversations tomorrow. Assumptions are the enemy. One of the fastest ways to create problems is assuming others should already know. Assumptions sound like, "They know what I meant. That should be obvious. We've always done it this way." Employees come from different backgrounds, experiences, and workplaces. What's obvious to one person may be completely unclear to another. Strong communication replaces assumptions with confirmation. Here's what I expect. Let me explain why. Tell me how you understand this. Two-way communication builds alignment. Communication is not a speech, it's a conversation. Leaders who only talk miss critical information. Employees often see problems forming long before leadership does. When communication flows both ways, issues are surfaced early instead of hidden. Encourage. Questions without punishment. Feedback without defensiveness. Honest discussion without fear. When employees feel safe speaking up, problems are solved before they escalate. Listening is a leadership skill. Many leaders hear, but don't listen. Listening means giving full attention. Not interrupting. Not preparing a response while the other person is talking. Seeking to understand before correcting. Employees who feel heard are more engaged, more accountable, and more loyal. Listening doesn't mean agreeing, it means respecting the person enough to understand their perspective. Consistency prevents confusion. Nothing undermines communication faster than inconsistency. If messages change depending on the day, the mood, or the audience, employees stop trusting what they hear. They wait to see what actually happens instead of acting on what's said. Strong communication is aligned across leadership. Reinforced through action. Backed by consistent standards. When words and actions match, communication becomes credible. Difficult conversations prevent bigger ones. Avoiding hard conversations guarantees harder ones later. Performance issues, attitude problems, and behavioral concerns do not fix themselves. When addressed early and respectfully, they often resolve quickly. When avoided, they damage morale, culture, and trust. Strong leaders prepare for difficult conversations. Focus on behavior, not personality. Stay calm and professional. End with clear expectations and next steps. Discomfort is temporary. Damage from avoidance lasts much longer. Over-communication during change. Change creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates anxiety. During transitions, new processes, leadership changes, growth, or challenges, communication must increase. Employees don't need all the answers, but they do need honesty. Effective change communication includes: what is changing? Why it's changing. What is not changing. What employees should expect next. Silence during change invites rumors. Communication builds stability. Simple, clear, repeatable. The best communication is simple enough to be repeated accurately. If a message is too complex to explain clearly, it's too complex to execute consistently. Strong leaders simplify messages and repeat them often, without assuming everyone heard it the first time. Repetition is not redundancy, it's reinforcement. When communication is done right. When communication is clear and consistent. Expectations are understood. Accountability feels fair. Fewer mistakes occur. Employees take ownership. Trust grows. Leaders spend less time fixing problems and more time building the future. The bottom line. Communication is not just about sharing information. It's about preventing confusion, alignment breakdowns, and unnecessary conflict. Strong communication doesn't wait for problems to appear. It anticipates them. It addresses them early. It prevents them from happening at all. When leaders communicate with clarity, consistency, and respect, problems don't disappear, but they become manageable, predictable, and solvable. And that is the difference between reacting to chaos and leading with intention. Chapter 8, Coaching versus Managing. Real-life example. A manager corrected mistakes without coaching, leading to repeated errors. When coaching replaced managing, employees improved and gained confidence. Managing gets work done, coaching builds people. Most leaders manage. Few truly coach. Managing focuses on tasks, deadlines, and results. Coaching focuses on people, growth, and long-term success. Both are necessary, but they are not the same. When leaders rely only on managing, teams perform at a basic level. When leaders learn to coach, teams grow, adapt, and outperform expectations. Strong organizations don't choose between coaching and managing, they understand when each is needed. What managing really is. Managing is about execution. It includes assigning tasks, monitoring progress, enforcing policies, solving immediate problems, ensuring deadlines are met. Managing is essential for structure and consistency. Without it, operations fall apart. However, managing alone creates employees who wait for direction instead of thinking independently. Managers ask, is the job done? Did you follow the process? Did you meet the deadline? What coaching really is. Coaching is about development. It includes teaching problem solving, building confidence, developing decision-making skills, encouraging accountability, preparing employees for greater responsibility. Coaching looks beyond the immediate task and focuses on long-term capability. Coaches ask, what did you learn? What would you do differently next time? How can I help you improve? The cost of only managing. When leaders only manage, employees become dependent. Initiative declines. Leaders become bottlenecks. Growth slows. Burnout increases, for everyone. Employees do what they're told, but they don't grow. Leaders stay busy fixing problems instead of preventing them. Managing keeps the business running. Coaching prepares it to scale. The shift from control to development. Coaching requires leaders to let go of control and invest in people. This doesn't mean lowering standards or avoiding accountability. It means correcting issues in a way that builds skill instead of fear. For example, managing says, don't do it like that, do it this way. Coaching says, walk me through your thinking. Let's adjust it together. One creates compliance. The other creates competence. Coaching is not avoiding accountability. One of the biggest misconceptions is that coaching is soft. Coaching is not avoiding hard conversations. In fact, it requires more honesty, patience, and consistency than managing. Coaches still hold people accountable, they just do it in a way that encourages ownership. Coaching focuses on why a mistake happened, how to prevent it, what skill needs to be developed, what support is required. Accountability remains firm. The approach changes. When to manage, when to coach. Strong leaders know when to switch gears. Manage when safety is involved. Deadlines are critical. Policies must be enforced. Performance expectations are not met. Coach when developing future leaders. Improving skills. Addressing recurring issues. Helping employees think independently. Managing solves today's problem. Coaching prevents tomorrow's. Coaching creates ownership. Employees who are coached take responsibility for outcomes. Think critically instead of reacting. Ask better questions. Improve faster. Stay engaged longer. When employees feel invested in, they invest back into the company. Coaching transforms employees from task doers into problem solvers. Coaching conversations matter. Effective coaching conversations are private, respectful, specific, focused on behavior, not personality. End with clear expectations. A good coaching conversation doesn't lecture, it guides. It allows employees to reflect, adjust, and grow without feeling attacked or dismissed. Developing leaders through coaching. Coaching is how future leaders are built. Leaders aren't created through instructions, they're created through guided experience. When employees are coached instead of managed, they learn how to think like leaders, not just how to follow directions. Every coaching moment is a leadership investment. The leader's responsibility. Your role is not just to ensure today's work gets done, it's to prepare your team for tomorrow. Managing keeps things moving, coaching moves people forward. The strongest leaders know how to do both, and when to shift between them. The bottom line. If you only manage, you will always need to be involved. If you coach, your team becomes capable without you. Managing builds efficiency, coaching builds capacity. And capacity is what allows a business to grow, adapt, and succeed long after the leader steps back. Chapter 9, Leading Through Change. Real-life example, during a system rollout, leadership remained visible and transparent. Stability followed, proving leadership, not policy, guides teams through change. Change is inevitable, leadership is the difference. Every organization experiences change. Growth, restructuring, new systems, new leadership, market shifts, or unexpected challenges are not a matter of if, but when. What separates strong companies from struggling ones is not the amount of change they face, but how they are led through it. Change doesn't fail because it's a bad idea. It fails because it's poorly led. Why change is hard for people. People don't resist change because they're lazy or difficult. They resist change because change introduces uncertainty. Uncertainty creates questions. Will I still have a job? Will I be successful in this new environment? Will expectations change? Will I be supported, or blamed? When these questions go unanswered, fear fills the gap. And fear, left unmanaged, turns into resistance. Strong leaders understand this and address uncertainty before it becomes a problem. Leadership sets the emotional tone. During change, employees don't look to policies, they look to leadership. They watch how leaders react under pressure. What leaders say, and what they avoid saying. Whether leaders stay calm or become reactive. Whether leaders are present or disappear. If leadership panics, the team panics. If leadership is steady, the team stabilizes. Your behavior during change communicates more than any announcement ever could. Clarity beats certainty. One of the biggest mistakes leaders make during change is waiting until everything is figured out before communicating. That moment rarely comes. Employees don't need certainty, they need clarity. Strong leaders communicate. What is known? What is changing? What is not changing? What is still being decided? When updates will come next? Honesty builds trust. Silence builds rumors. Overcommunication is not optional during change. Change requires more communication, not less. When communication drops, employees fill in the gaps themselves, and those assumptions are rarely positive. Overcommunication doesn't mean repeating the same message blindly. It means reinforcing priorities, expectations, and direction consistently. Effective change communication is clear, repeated, simple, aligned across leadership. If a message matters, it should be heard more than once. Acknowledge the impact. Leaders often focus on logistics, timelines, systems, processes, while ignoring the human impact. That's a mistake. Change affects routines, confidence, identity, and comfort. Ignoring that reality doesn't make people stronger, it makes them feel unseen. Strong leaders acknowledge stress, uncertainty, learning curves, temporary disruption. Acknowledgement is not weakness. It is credibility. Lead with purpose, not just process. People will endure change when they understand why it matters. Change without purpose feels like disruption, change with purpose feels like progress. Strong leaders clearly explain why the change is necessary, what problem it solves, how it benefits customers, employees, or the company, what success will look like on the other side. When people understand the why, resistance decreases and engagement increases. Protect culture during change. Change puts culture under pressure. Standards are often the first thing sacrificed just to get through it. That shortcut comes at a cost. Culture doesn't survive change by accident, it must be actively protected. Strong leaders maintain accountability during transition. Address poor behavior immediately. Reinforce values even when things are messy. Model professionalism under stress. Culture is tested during change. Whatever survives becomes permanent. Empower, don't control. During uncertainty, leaders often tighten control. While structure is important, over-control signals distrust. Strong leaders empower employees by giving clear priorities, allowing autonomy within boundaries, encouraging problem-solving, asking for input from the front lines. People closest to the work often see solutions first. Involving them builds buy-in and improves outcomes. Expect resistance, plan for it. Resistance is not failure, it's feedback. Some resistance comes from fear. Some comes from confusion. Some comes from real concerns. Strong leaders don't dismiss resistance, they explore it. Ask. What's driving the concern? What's unclear? What support is missing? Addressing resistance directly prevents it from going underground where it becomes toxic. Consistency builds confidence. During change, consistency becomes leadership currency. When leaders keep commitments, communicate regularly, enforce standards fairly, show up consistently, employees regain confidence. Stability doesn't come from avoiding change, it comes from reliable leadership during it. Change is a leadership test. Anyone can lead when things are stable. Leadership is revealed when things are uncertain. Employees don't remember every decision made during change. But they always remember how leadership made them feel. Did they feel informed or ignored? Supported or blamed? Valued or expendable? Guided or abandoned? Those answers determine trust long after the change is complete. The bottom line. Change is unavoidable. Chaos is not. Strong leaders don't rush change, hide from it, or force it blindly. They lead it, intentionally, transparently, and steadily. When leadership provides clarity, consistency, and purpose, change becomes a challenge teams rise to, not something they fear. And when change is led well, it doesn't weaken an organization, it strengthens it. Conclusion: leadership is a daily choice. The business reflects the leadership. By now, one truth should be clear: your business is a reflection of your leadership. Your staff doesn't just represent your company, they mirror it. Their habits, performance, communication, and accountability are shaped by what you expect, what you reinforce, and what you allow. Strong teams are not accidental, strong cultures are not lucky, strong leadership is intentional. It always starts with people. Every chapter of this book points back to one central idea: people drive results. How you onboard new hires determines how quickly they succeed. How clearly you set expectations determines accountability. How you lead determines culture. How you communicate determines stability. How you coach determines growth. How you handle change determines trust. Systems matter. Processes matter. But without strong leadership, they fail to deliver consistent results. Leadership is not a title. Leadership is not authority. IT is not position. IT is not control. Leadership is influence. It's shown in the conversations you don't avoid, the standards you protect, the behavior you correct, the people you develop, the consistency you maintain. Employees don't need perfect leaders. They need clear, fair, and present ones. Consistency is the difference maker. The most powerful leadership trait is not charisma, it is consistency. When leadership is consistent, expectations are clear. Accountability feels fair. Culture becomes stable. Trust grows naturally. Performance improves without force. Inconsistent leadership creates confusion. Consistent leadership creates confidence. Your staff is always watching. Employees are always paying attention, not to what you say, but to what you do. They notice who gets corrected and who doesn't. What behavior is rewarded. What standards quietly disappear. How leaders act under pressure. Every decision sends a message. Every silence does too. The hard work is the right work. Strong leadership is not easy. It requires difficult conversations, patience with development, courage to protect culture, willingness to address issues early, commitment to growth. For yourself and others. Avoiding discomfort doesn't make problems go away. It simply makes them bigger and harder to fix later. The long-term impact of leading well. When leadership is done right. Employees take ownership. Teams solve problems together. Managers become coaches. Culture enforces standards. The business becomes scalable and sustainable. Your role shifts from constantly fixing issues to building the future. This is not a one-time effort. Leadership is not a program you implement. It's a discipline you practice. Every day, you choose to lead or to react, to coach or to control, to address issues or ignore them, to protect standards or compromise them. Those daily choices determine the kind of company you run and the kind of people who stay. The final truth. You don't build a great company by demanding more from your staff, you build a great company by leading better. When you hire for attitude, train with intention, communicate clearly, hold people accountable without micromanaging, develop leaders from within, protect culture relentlessly. Your staff doesn't just work for you, they work with you. And that is where real success begins.